August 17th, 1943. 26,000 feet above the Schweinfurt-Regensburg corridor, southern Germany. The sky is a hard, polished blue, too clean, too calm for what is coming. Sunlight glints off aluminum wings, stretching eastward in long, rigid boxes. Below, Germany waits. Factories, flak towers, airfields already awake. Inside a Republic P-47 Thunderbolt, Lieutenant Jack Donnelly, 23 years old, Akron, Ohio, tightens his gloved hands around the control column. The cockpit smells of hot oil, oxygen rubber, and cordite residue from yesterday's mission. The Pratt & Whitney R2800 double wasp in front of him turns with a deep animal rhythm. 18 cylinders, 2,000 horsepower, barely restrained by metal and rivets. The Thunderbolt shudders slightly in the thin air. She always does. The P-47 is massive, over 7 tons loaded. Thick wings, a barrel chest of armor, turbo supercharger ducting, and fuel. She is not elegant. She does not float. She forces the air aside. And the Germans know it. On the Luftwaffe side of the sky, the nickname has already spread. Jug, short for juggernaut, but spoken with contempt. Too big, too heavy, too slow to turn. Easy meat for a disciplined Bf-109 or a sharp-climbing FJ-190. They do not fear this airplane. Not yet. The mission briefing that morning had been blunt. Escort duty, deep penetration. The bombers, B-17s, would be flying farther than ever before. No safe turnback line. No friendly fighters past the Rhine unless the Thunderbolt stayed with them on fumes and faith. Donnelly remembers the map. Red grease pencil lines clawing deep into enemy territory. Someone behind him had muttered, "That's a long way on a short leash." Now the leash is fuel, ticking down in a gauge that never stops moving. He glances left. Silver fortresses churn along, contrails streaming, tight as teeth in a zipper. Men inside them are already tense. Gunners scanning, navigators calculating drift, pilots gripping throttles like prayer beads. Donnelly's job is simple: keep the wolves off. But the wolves are coming anyway. Bandits, 2 o'clock high. The radio crackles. Calm voice, trained voice. But every pilot feels it. The tightening in the chest, the heat behind the eyes. Above them, black specks peel out of the sun. Messerschmitt Bavia. G's, climbing hard, noses up, engines screaming at the edge of their limits. Below them, Focke-Wulf 190s slide into position, fast and aggressive, like knives drawn low. German pilots watch the escorts first. They see Thunderbolts. Big ones. Too big, Oberleutnant Karl-Heinz Richter thinks, as he shoves his 109's nose over slightly, measuring closure rate. 26 years old. Bavaria. Veteran of the Channel Front and the East. He has killed Spitfires that danced, hurricanes that burned easily. The Thunderbolt does not dance. It lumbers. "Those are the Americans with the fat fighters," someone says on the German frequency. Laughter follows. Short. Confident. Richter pushes throttle and boost. The Daimler-Benz engine snarls. His aircraft climbs like a thrown spear. The plan is classic. Hit the escorts. Break them up. Then the bombers die. Inside the P-47, Donnelly feels the first flak bursts below. Black puffs rising, slow and menacing. He adjusts mixture. Checks boost. His eyes flick across gauges drilled into muscle memory. Oil pressure. Steady. Manifold pressure. High. Airspeed. 260 mph out indicated. The Thunderbolt feels heavy today. Always does above 20,000 feet. The turbo supercharger whines behind him, feeding compressed air through long ducts. Without it, The Jug would suffocate up here. "Stay tight," squadron lead orders. "Don't chase." Donnelly swallows. He knows the rule. He also knows what happens when a German fighter lines up on a bomber's tail. The first passes are slashing and fast. Cannon shells tear through empty sky. Tracers arc like glowing beads. A 190 flashes past below him, gray and green, black crosses sharp and familiar. Donnelly squeezes the trigger. 850 caliber Brownings erupt at once. The Jug vibrates violently, like it's being punched from the inside. Brass floods past the canopy. The recoil is brutal, but stable. The German fighter jinks away. No hit. Not yet. Richter sees it from above. The American fires early. Too early. Heavy fighter. Poor discipline. He rolls inverted and dives. The world tilts. Gravity pulls him into the straps. His airspeed climbs. 420. 450. He lines up behind the Thunderbolt. Big target. Easy to track. He squeezes his trigger. 20mm cannon fire streaks forward. Bright. Violent. The Thunderbolt is hit. Donnelly hears it as a hammering roar. Metal tearing. Armor ringing. The aircraft jerks, but does not fail. Warning lights stay dark. Control response remains solid. He exhales sharply. Alive. He pushes the nose down. Not to turn. Not to climb. Down. The Jug responds like a falling anvil. Richter smiles as the American breaks away. Then his smile fades. The Thunderbolt does not pull into a flat turn. It does not climb. It dives. Steeply. Decisively. Nose dropping toward the blue void below. Richter follows. At first, it feels right. His aircraft accelerates cleanly. He keeps the Jug centered in his gun sight, but the airspeed needle keeps moving. 500 kilometers per hour. 600. 650. The Thunderbolt is still pulling away. The American fighter grows smaller, not because it is turning, but because it is falling faster than gravity expects. Richter feels the controls stiffen. Compressibility begins to creep in. The nose grows heavy. The dive angle increases whether he wants it to or not. The Jug's wings do not flutter. They hold. The distance grows. For the first time that morning, the German pilot feels something unfamiliar press against his confidence. Uncertainty. Below them, the Thunderbolt vanishes into speed. Untouchable. Unstoppable. A mass of metal, turned into a weapon by physics alone. Donnelly doesn't look back. He doesn't need to. The Jug is doing what it was born to do. Fall faster than anything chasing it. The altimeter spins faster than Donnelly expects. 25,000. 22. 19. The Thunderbolt is no longer flying. It is plunging. The nose points earthward at a savage angle. The horizon sliding up the canopy as airspeed builds beyond anything he has felt before. The controls grow heavy. The stick stiffens in his hands, as if the airplane itself is resisting being moved. Wind screams past the canopy seams, a rising howl that vibrates through bone and teeth. The Jug's thick wings slice downward, compressing air until it hardens, until it becomes something solid, something dangerous. The airspeed needle surges past 480 mph. Donnelly's vision narrows slightly. He forces himself to breathe, slow and measured, oxygen hissing into his mask. His body wants to panic, wants to pull out too early. But training holds. Let it run. Behind him, unseen, the German fighter is fighting a losing battle. Oberleutnant Richter's Messerschmitt shudders violently. The controls are no longer obedient. The stick feels like it's sunk into wet concrete. His elevator responds sluggishly, barely correcting the dive angle. The wind roars so loudly it drowns the engine's scream. The jug is gone now, nothing but a shrinking speck, then nothing at all. Richter glances at his airspeed. Too fast. Much too fast. Compressibility clamps down hard. The nose drops further despite his efforts. The ground swells rapidly, fields and rivers rushing upward with terrifying clarity. He forces both hands onto the stick, hauling back with everything he has. The aircraft resists. The American is not turning. The American is not climbing. The American has become untouchable. Richter breaks off, rolling desperately, throttling back, riding the edge of blackout as he claws for altitude. When he finally levels out, the Thunderbolt is gone. No smoke, no debris, no victory, just empty sky. For the first time in his combat career, Richter has chased a fighter and lost. Not to maneuver, not to gunfire, but to speed itself. Donnelly levels out at 12,000 feet. The Thunderbolt groans as lift returns, wings biting air again. He eases back on the stick, feeling the resistance slowly fade. The aircraft forgiving him, because it was built to forgive. Oil pressure steady, engine still roaring. No fire. He checks his mirrors. Nothing. The dive has worked. Again. He pulls into a climbing turn, throttling back to cruise, letting the jug regain altitude with stubborn determination. The double Wasp answers willingly, hauling the heavy airframe upward like a tractor pulling steel uphill. His hands are shaking now. He didn't notice until this moment. That was close. Too close. But he is alive. Above him, the battle continues. More German fighters slash at the bomber. Stream. But something has changed. The escorts are no longer predictable. The Thunderbolts don't try to outturn. They don't climb into vertical duels they cannot win. They strike, then they drop. German pilots follow instinctively, believing mass equals weakness. Every time, the same result. The jug falls away. Weeks later, in a Luftwaffe briefing room scarred by bomb dust and cigarette smoke, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Pilots report the same thing. You cannot catch them in the dive. They simply disappear. They should break apart, but they don't. Charts are drawn, speeds calculated, dive angles sketched in pencil and frustration. Engineers mutter about wing thickness, about structural limits that should exist, but don't. The P-47's massive frame, once mocked, is now its shield. Thick wings delay compressibility. Weight builds momentum. Dive acceleration becomes brutal, relentless. The Thunderbolt is not graceful. It is inevitable. Back in England, the Americans are learning too. Maintenance crews patch holes in Thunderbolts that would have killed lighter fighters. Mechanics slap armor plate and laugh nervously at stories from returning pilots. Jug came back with half a wing gone, one says. Still flew straight, another replies. Donnelly listens, silent, thinking about the dive. About the moment gravity stopped being an enemy and became an ally. In the debrief, intelligence officers take notes. High-speed diving escape effective. Enemy fighters unable to pursue. Structural integrity exceptional. The doctrine begins to change. Thunderbolts are no longer tied so tightly to the bombers. They are allowed to roam, hunt, strike ground targets, fighters, anything they can reach. And when things go wrong, they dive. Spring turns to summer. The jug's reputation spreads. German pilots begin to hesitate before following. Some break off early. Some never chase at all. They watch Thunderbolts fall away and know that path leads only down. Donnelly feels the shift in the air. The enemy is still deadly, still skilled, but no longer dismissive. The laughter is gone. On one mission over Frankfurt, he sees a 190 line up on him from above. He waits, lets it close, then pushes the nose down. The German breaks off immediately. No shots fired. The dive alone is enough. By late 1944, the Thunderbolt has become something else entirely. Not prey, not clumsy, but a hammer that strikes and cannot be caught. Donnelly survives the war. Many do not. But every time he thinks back to that August day over Germany, he remembers the moment the sky tilted, the world fell away, and the enemy vanished behind him. The moment the jug revealed its secret. Weight was not weakness. Speed was survival. November 11th, 1943. Western Germany. Late morning. Cold has settled into the sky. Not the sharp bite of winter yet, but a steady, numbing chill that creeps through flight suits and gloves and never quite leaves. High above the Rhine, contrails smear the sky like scars that refuse to fade. Lieutenant Jack Donnelly has flown 37 missions now. Enough to know which sounds mean danger, enough to recognize the subtle vibration of flak bursts before the black puffs appear, enough to understand that the Thunderbolt does not save you by finesse, it saves you by endurance. Today's Escort is shorter on paper at least. A strike against rail yards feeding the Western Front, medium resistance expected. That phrase means nothing anymore. Below them, flak rises immediately, not scattered, coordinated, heavy. The bombers plow forward regardless, and the fighters come. This time, the Germans don't attack from above. They come in fast and low, using speed instead of height. FTMIO. 90As, their BMW engines screaming, wings bristling with cannon. They rake the Escort formation, cannon shells snapping past canopies like thrown stones. Donnelly snaps his jug into a shallow dive, lining up on a 190 crossing his nose. He fires. The 850s converge. Tracers stitch across the German fighter's fuselage. One round punches into the engine cowling. The Focke-Wulf explodes, not in flame, but in sudden, violent disintegration. Panels shear away. The aircraft folds inward and vanishes into cloud. Donnelly doesn't celebrate. He's already scanning. Another 190 dives on him from behind. The German pilot commits. Too far. Too close. Donnelly feels the first impacts. Sharp, metallic blows against armor plate behind his seat. The jug jolts. Warning lights flicker. Fuel pressure wavers. The Thunderbolt is hit, but still flying. He rolls hard left, then right, spoiling the shot, and pushes the nose down once more. Not a steep dive. Not yet. Just enough. The German follows instinctively. That is the mistake. The Thunderbolt accelerates brutally. Donnelly shoves the throttle forward, engaging war emergency power. The double wasp roars in protest, then compliance. The turbo supercharger screams as it feeds the engine compressed life. Airspeed climbs. The German stays with him, at first. The jug grows heavier in the dive, momentum stacking upon momentum. The wings remain solid. The airframe absorbs the stress like a battering ram. Donnelly steepens the dive. This time, he looks back. The FDI 190 is still there, but it is struggling. Its nose wobbles slightly. Control authority fades. Donnelly pushes further. The German breaks away. Again. Below them, the ground rushes up in terrifying detail. Fields, rivers, roads threading through farmland like veins. Donnelly pulls out hard at 9,000 feet, muscles straining against the G-forces. The Thunderbolt protests, but obeys. He climbs again. Always climbs. The Luftwaffe adapts slowly. Too slowly. By winter, American pilots are briefed openly. Use the dive. Trust the weight. Trust the wings. Thunderbolts begin attacking trains, columns, airfields, roaring and low, firing until ammunition runs dry, then pulling straight up or dropping straight down. German fighters attempt interception. Sometimes they succeed. Often, they do not. A jug hit over the Ruhr limps home with half a tail missing. Another returns with a cylinder shot out, engine still turning. Donnelly sees one land belly first, wheels gone. Pilot crawling from the cockpit, shaking, but alive. Other fighters would have killed their pilots. The Thunderbolt absorbs punishment and keeps flying. In German after-action reports, the tone changes. The Thunderbolt is no longer dismissed. It is described with frustration. Extremely robust. Difficult to destroy. Escapes by diving at extreme speed. German pilots begin refusing pursuit unless altitude advantage is overwhelming. Even then, they hesitate. Weight, once mocked, has become threat. By early 1944, the Americans take the lesson further. Drop tanks extend range. Thunderbolts escort bombers all the way to Berlin. They are no longer just shields. They are hunters. Donnelly strafes locomotives until his guns glow. He rips through truck columns. He attacks flak positions head-on, trusting armor plate and speed to carry him through. Each mission ends the same way. Throttle forward. Nose down. Dive. The jug falls away from danger like a stone thrown by God. Years later, Donnelly will struggle to explain it to anyone who wasn't there. How fear changes when you trust a machine completely. How the dive feels less like escape and more like release. How the enemy learns, too late, that some aircraft are not meant to turn or climb into legend. Some are meant to fall through the sky and survive. The Thunderbolt earns a new reputation. Not graceful, not clever, but unbreakable. March 6, 1944, near Münster. Overcast at 20,000 feet. The weather is ugly. Low cloud layers stacked like dirty glass. Visibility broken into tunnels and blind corners. The kind of sky where fighters appear without warning and vanish just as fast. Lieutenant Jack Donnelly is tired. 49 missions now. The numbers matter. Everyone flown past 30 is borrowed time. His Thunderbolt carries fresh scars, patched flak holes, a replacement aileron, paint burned thin by exhaust and gunfire. But the jug still flies straight. The bombers ahead are headed for Münster, another rail junction, another choke point strangling German logistics. The war on the ground is shifting. Normandy is coming. Everyone knows it, even if no one says it out loud. And the Luftwaffe is desperate. They come hard this time. No probing passes. No testing dives. A full staffel of WWII punches through cloud, cannon blazing, straight at the bombers. One fortress catches fire instantly, right wing burning, formation breaking as men inside fight gravity and flame. Donnelly doesn't wait for orders. He shoves the jug forward and dives into the attack. The cute world narrows to angles and closure rates. He lines up on a 190 crossing below him, leads slightly, fires a 1-second burst. The German fighter snaps apart mid-roll. He climbs, rolls, dives again. Hit and run, slash and drop. No turning fights, no heroics. The Thunderbolt strikes like a piston. A Messerschmitt flashes past his canopy, too close for comfort. Donnelly jerks the stick, feeling the weight fight him, then shoves the nose down once more. But this time, the German does not follow. The 109 pilot breaks away immediately, climbing hard. choosing altitude over pride. Donnelly notices. So does everyone else. Across the front, the pattern is repeating. German pilots no longer chase Thunderbolts into dives. They disengage early. They conserve aircraft. They conserve lives. But that caution costs them initiative. Thunderbolts roam freely now, diving on fighters, then bombers, then ground targets, always escaping downward, always returning upward with stubborn persistence. The sky is no longer contested evenly. It is being controlled. Back in England, statistics confirm what pilots already feel. Thunderbolt loss rates drop sharply. Escort success climbs. Bomber survival improves. The Jug is doing what it was never designed to do on paper: dominate the air through physics, punishment, and speed. The P-51 will come later, sleek and lethal. But right now, in early 1944, it is the Thunderbolt holding the line. On his 52nd mission, Donnelly is hit again. Flak this time. A shell bursts close. Shrapnel tears into the fuselage. The engine coughs. Oil pressure dips dangerously. He feels fear claw at his throat. Then training takes over. Throttle back. Mixture adjusted. He tests the engine gently. It holds. He turns west and dives. Not steep, not reckless. Just enough to keep speed high and stress low. German fighters watch from a distance and do nothing. They know better now. Donnelly crosses the Rhine alone, wounded Jug humming steadily beneath him, and lands in England with oil streaming down the cowling. The crew chief stares at the damage in disbelief. "That thing should have killed you." Donnelly shrugs. "She didn't feel like dying today." When the war ends, historians will argue about which fighter was best. They will compare climb rates, turn circles, kill ratios. But pilots who flew the Thunderbolt will remember something simpler. The moment when the sky tipped vertical. The moment when gravity became an ally. The moment German pilots stopped chasing. Because they had learned the truth too late. You cannot catch what is already falling faster than fear. May 1945. England. The airfield is quiet in a way that feels wrong. No engines warming, no crews running, no contrails cutting the sky into pieces. Just grass, damp and uneven, and rows of parked Thunderbolts sitting like tired animals that have finally been allowed to rest. Lieutenant Jack Donnelly stands beside his Jug for a long time. The aircraft's skin is a patchwork of stories, rivets replaced, panels mismatched, paint scorched where exhaust burned too hot during emergency power dives. One wing bears a faint dent from flak that should have torn it off. It didn't. He runs a hand along the leading edge, feeling cold metal under his fingers. For nearly 2 years, this machine had been his shield, his weapon, his escape. Now it is just still. Around him, men are packing gear, writing letters, talking about home. Some laugh too loudly. Some don't speak at all. Names are read off lists, those who will not be going back. Donnelly thinks of the dives, not the kills, not the victories. The dives. The moment when the world dropped away, when fear sharpened into focus, when the Jug answered with speed instead of grace. When German guns fell silent behind him because they could not follow. He remembers the first time it worked, the disbelief, the relief, the understanding that survival had a shape, and it pointed straight down. Across Germany, captured Luftwaffe pilots tell similar stories. They speak of Thunderbolts with a kind of grudging respect. Too fast in the dive. Too strong. We learned not to chase. Some admit they survived because they stopped trying. Others were not so lucky. The historians will later write about the P-47's statistics. How it destroyed more enemy aircraft than any other American fighter in Europe. How it devastated rail lines, tanks, trucks, and troop columns. How its loss rate fell as tactics evolved around its strengths. They will mention the dive speed, over 500 miles per hour, flirting with the limits of 1940s aerodynamics. They will mention compressibility, thick wings, mass, momentum. But numbers don't capture the feeling. For the men who flew it, the Thunderbolt was not elegant. It did not forgive mistakes easily. But when the moment came, when enemy guns closed in, when altitude vanished, when escape was measured in seconds, the Jug did not ask for bravery. It offered gravity. Donnelly boards a transport weeks later, leaving England behind. He looks down at the patchwork of airfields shrinking beneath the clouds. Somewhere below, Thunderbolts are already being scrapped, sold, forgotten. But the lesson remains. In a war decided by speed, steel, and survival, there was a moment when German pilots learned something the hard way. They didn't fear the P-47 until it dove.